We spend a ton of time worrying about making the right decision. But what happens in our heads the moment after we've made the choice? Well, that's when things get really interesting and, frankly, a little weird. I think we've all been there. You finally pull the trigger. You pick the school, you take the job, you buy the car, and instead of feeling this wave of pure relief, you get this churning, complicated feeling. It's not quite regret, it's something else. So, to get a handle on that weird feeling, let's first talk about what happens when we don't choose at all. And here's the thing, making a bad decision is often so much better than making no decision. Why? Because a bad decision gives you feedback, right? It creates momentum, you learn something. Indecision, though, that's just paralysis. It's fear keeping you completely stuck, learning absolutely nothing.
And that feeling, that tension right before you commit? Well, psychologists have a name for it. The agony of choice. We're all wired to try and find that perfect option, to avoid making a mistake. But the truth is, most of the time, waiting for perfect is just fear wearing a clever disguise.
This quote from Rhonda Sharf just nails it. You can't always just think your way into being clear about something. A lot of the time, you have to act your way into it. The very motion of moving forward is what actually clears up the fog. But what's going on in our brain right after we take that step?
Well, the answer really boils down to this incredibly powerful psychological force called cognitive dissonance. It's that static in your brain, that uncomfortable feeling you get when your actions and your beliefs don't quite match up. It's that little voice going, I chose option A, but man, option B had some really great things going for it that I'm missing out on now. And that little conflict creates a tension that your brain is just desperate to fix.
And this is where the magic happens. To get rid of that uncomfortable feeling, your brain pulls off this amazing little trick. See, it can't change the decision. That's already done. So instead, it starts changing you.
And believe it or not, we can actually see this mental sleight of hand in action, all thanks to this brilliant study from way back in 1956. A psychologist named Jack Brem set up this simple, elegant experiment to catch the brain red-handed, right in the middle of justifying itself. So here's how it went down. First, participants were asked to rate how much they wanted 8 different everyday products. Simple enough. Then, they were shown 2 of those items and told they could choose one to take home, for free. And finally, after they made their choice, they were asked to rate all 8 products again, from memory. And we're not talking about abstract concepts here. These were real things, right in front of them. Toasters, coffee makers, radios, stuff you could actually imagine wanting to have in your home. The whole key to the experiment was what happened between that first rating and that second one. How could the simple act of choosing a toaster over a radio actually change how they felt about all the items? And the results were, wow, just stunning. After making their choice, the participants' ratings for the item they chose shot up. But here's the craziest part. Their ratings for the item they rejected went down. Their brains literally rewrote their own feelings on the spot to make them feel better about the decision they just made. So here's the bottom line. To get rid of that cognitive dissonance, that nagging feeling after a choice, our minds automatically pump up the value of what we picked and totally devalue what we left behind. It's like a built-in defense mechanism against buyer's remorse. But here's the thing. This whole process doesn't feel the same for everybody. It turns out our personality, who we are at our core, plays a huge role in what kind of choices we end up regretting the most. So researchers have found that most of us fall into 2 broad camps. On one side, you've got your action-oriented people. Let's call them the doers. They just want to solve problems by doing something, and they're pretty good at shaking off bad feelings. On the other side, you have state-oriented people, the dwellers. They tend to get stuck on negative things and have a really hard time moving on. And check this out. When scientists looked at what these 2 groups regretted, they found this wild pattern, especially for the doers. The regret they felt from making a bad choice, surprisingly low, but the regret they felt from doing nothing, from inaction, it was through the roof. So why is that? It's because not acting goes against their very nature. Like the researchers put it, when a doer doesn't do something, it's inconsistent with who they are, and that clash is what creates this intense regret. For them, the pain of what if I had is so much worse than, oops, I shouldn't have. Okay, so our brains justify our choices, and our personalities shape our regrets. But there is one last, kind of bizarre twist to this whole story, and it's all about our expectations. Just think about the difference between a pessimist and an optimist. A pessimist, the worrier, is always expecting the worst, right? Which means they live with a lot of dread. An optimist, the hopeful one, kind of expects things to work out, so they feel a lot less of that dread beforehand.
But here is the paradox. One study found that because pessimists are braced for the absolute worst, their feeling of relief is massively amplified when that bad thing doesn't happen. The more you dreaded it, the sweeter the relief feels. It's this strange quirk where preparing for disaster can actually make a not bad outcome feel absolutely amazing.
So what does this all mean when we put it all together? We've seen that the life of a decision doesn't just end when you make it. It keeps going, shaped by all these powerful, hidden forces in our minds.
Let's just boil it down to the 3 big takeaways. Number 1, your brain isn't a passive scorekeeper. It's an active storyteller, changing your feelings to make your actions make sense. 2, your personality shapes what you'll regret more. For some of us, the biggest pain is the road not taken. And 3, your expectations literally create your emotional reality, and sometimes in ways you'd never expect.
It all leaves us with one last really fascinating question to chew on. The next time you look back on a big choice you made, are you really seeing the choice for what it was? Or are you just listening to the very convincing, very biased, and very clever story your brain is telling you to make it all feel okay?